The impossible detection fleet commander Vrax of the Corinthian Empire stood on the bridge of the sovereign dreadnought, his 6 eyes fixed on the scanning displays that surrounded him. For 300 cycles, the Corinthian Empire had ruled this sector of the galaxy with absolute authority. Their technology was unmatched, their military undefeated, and their intelligence network flawless. Every species they had encountered had either joined their empire willingly or been absorbed by force. There had never been exceptions, until now. The holographic display before him showed the outer rim of what the humans called the solar system, a primitive collection of planets orbiting a single yellow star. The dominant species, these humans, had only achieved faster than light travel 2 decades ago. Their ships were clumsy, their weapons basic, and their understanding of quantum mechanics laughably incomplete. The Corinthian observation teams had monitored them for years, documenting every aspect of their slow technological progress. Vrax's primary officer, a young Corinthian named Zelix, approached with visible confusion etched across his chitinous features. His mandibles clicked nervously as he spoke. "Commander, we have an anomaly. Sector 9 reports a spatial distortion approximately 40,000 kilometers from Jupiter's orbital path." Vrax turned his attention to the junior officer. Spatial distortions were common enough near gas giants. Gravitational fluctuations, meteor impacts, even solar wind could create minor readings. "Classification?" he asked, his voice carrying the deep resonance typical of his species. Zelix hesitated, and that hesitation made Vrax's secondary heart skip. "Unknown, Commander. The signature doesn't match any natural phenomenon in our database, and it's moving." The bridge fell silent. Every Corinthian officer present turned their attention to the main display. Vrax manipulated the controls, magnifying the area in question. What he saw made no sense. The readings showed a massive energy signature, but there was nothing visible. No ship, no station, no debris field. Just empty space that somehow registered as containing something impossibly dense and energetic. "Deploy reconnaissance drones," Vrax ordered. "Full spectrum analysis, I want to know what we're looking at." 6 drones launched from the Sovereign, their sleek forms cutting through space at incredible speed. They were equipped with the most advanced sensors in the Corinthian arsenal, capable of detecting everything from neutrino emissions to quantum fluctuations. As they approached the anomaly, their data streams began painting a picture that Vrax found increasingly disturbing. The object was there. It existed in physical space, but it was phased somehow, existing partially outside normal dimensional boundaries. The energy readings were astronomical, far exceeding anything a ship of comparable size should be able to generate. And comparable size was itself a mystery because the drones couldn't agree on the object's dimensions. One moment it registered as 200 meters long, the next moment as 2 kilometers. "Commander," Zelix said, his voice tight with concern, "the drones are losing telemetry. Something is interfering with their quantum communication links." Before Vrax could respond, all 6 drones simultaneously went dark. Not destroyed, not damaged. Simply ceased transmitting as if they had been switched off by an external command. In 300 cycles of military service, Vrax had never seen anything like it. "Battle stations," he commanded. Throughout the Sovereign, alarms began to sound. The massive dreadnought's weapon systems powered up, and shield generators hummed to life. Around them, the rest of the reconnaissance fleet followed suit. 12 heavy cruisers, 40 escort vessels, and countless support craft all prepared for potential combat. The anomaly began to move toward them, not quickly, but with a deliberate purpose that suggested intelligence and intent. Vrax watched as his best tactical officers struggled to get a weapons lock. Their targeting systems kept sliding off the object, as if it simply wasn't there. Then without warning it appeared. One moment there was empty space, the next moment a ship materialized before them. But calling it a ship felt inadequate. It was a work of art, a fusion of elegant curves and purposeful angles that seemed to defy conventional engineering. The hull appeared to be made of some crystalline substance that caught and reflected the distant sunlight in ways that created an almost hypnotic effect. The vessel was perhaps 300 meters in length, small compared to the Sovereign's. 2-kilometer bulk, yet it radiated power in a way that made Vrax's combat instincts scream warnings. There were no visible weapons ports, no obvious propulsion systems, no communication arrays. It simply hung in space like a predator regarding its prey. "Scan it," Vrax ordered. "I want every detail." The scanning officer worked frantically at her console. "Commander, I'm reading energy outputs that should be impossible for a vessel that size. The power core alone is generating more energy than our entire fleet combined. And the hull material, it's not registering as any known alloy or composite. It seems to be some form of programmable matter that shifts its molecular structure continuously." "Weapons status?" Vrax asked. "Unable to confirm, Commander. There are energy nodes throughout the vessel that could be weapons, could be sensors, could be propulsion systems. Everything about this ship is multifunctional in ways our technology can't achieve." A communication signal suddenly filled the bridge. It was audio only, transmitted on frequencies that the Corinthians used for their most secure military channels. Frequencies that no one outside the Empire should know existed. "Corinthian vessel, this is Captain Sarah Mitchell of the Earth Defense Force ship Horizon's Edge." The voice was human, female, and carried an undertone of confidence that Vrax found deeply unsettling. "You are currently in designated human patrol space. State your intentions." Vrax exchanged glances with his officers. Human patrol space? The humans had no patrol space. They had a handful of exploration vessels and some basic defense platforms around their home world. They certainly didn't have the capability or authority to claim territory this far from their planet. "This is Fleet Commander Vrax of the Corinthian Empire," he responded, keeping his voice neutral. "You are addressing the primary reconnaissance fleet of the dominant power in this sector. We have monitored your species for years. Your technology is not capable of producing a vessel like the one you command. Explain how you came to possess it." There was a pause, and Vrax imagined he could hear amusement in the silence. When Captain Mitchell responded, her tone had shifted slightly. "Commander Vrax, your intelligence is outdated, significantly outdated. Humanity has made certain advances that your observation posts failed to detect. I'm willing to escort you to neutral space where we can discuss this situation diplomatically. But I need to be clear. Any hostile action will be met with overwhelming force." Overwhelming force. From a single ship. Vrax felt his anger rising. The Corinthian Empire did not receive threats from primitive species. "You speak boldly for someone whose entire civilization could be eliminated by the fleet currently surrounding you." "Could have been eliminated," Mitchell corrected gently. "Past tense, Commander. The galaxy has changed. You just haven't realized it yet." Vrax made a decision. "All vessels, target the human ship. Prepare to fire on my command." 43 ships aligned their weapons. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, and graviton beams all locked onto the Horizon's Edge. Enough firepower to shatter a moon focused on a single target. "Commander, I strongly advise against this action," Captain Mitchell said. And now there was genuine concern in her voice. "You don't understand what you're dealing with." "Fire," Vrax commanded. What happened next would haunt Vrax for the rest of his life. The instant his fleet opened fire, the Horizon's Edge simply vanished. Not jumped away, not moved faster than sensors could track. It ceased to exist in their reality. Every weapon struck empty space, their devastating payloads dissipating harmlessly into the void. Then the human ship reappeared. Not where it had been, but directly above the Sovereign, so close that Vrax could see individual details of its crystalline hull through the viewport. Something extended from its surface, a tendril of shimmering energy that touched the dreadnought's shields. Every system on the Sovereign went dark. Weapons, shields, life support, navigation, communication, everything. The massive warship became nothing more than a dead hulk drifting in space. Through the viewports, Vrax watched in horror as the same thing happened to every ship in his fleet. 43 vessels, the pride of the Corinthian military, rendered completely helpless in less than 3 seconds. Emergency lighting flickered, on powered by backup systems that the human technology had apparently chosen to leave functional. Captain Mitchell's voice returned, now broadcasting through the Sovereign's internal speakers with no electronic system active to receive it. "Commander Vrax, I've disabled your fleet's primary systems, but left life support and basic functions operational. This is not an act of war. This is a demonstration. You need to understand that the balance of power has shifted. Humanity is no longer the primitive species you've been observing. We are no longer subjects to be studied and catalogued. We are equals, and we will be treated as such. Frax found his voice, though it came out as barely more than a whisper. How is this possible? 20 years ago you couldn't even generate a stable warp field. 20 years ago we couldn't, Mitchell agreed. But 19 years ago, a human mining operation in the asteroid belt discovered something extraordinary. We found a derelict ship, Commander, ancient beyond measure, from a civilization that makes both our species look like children playing with toys. Inside that ship we found technology that we barely understood. But we're very good at learning, Commander. We're very, very good at adapting. The implications crashed over Vrax like a physical wave, an ancient derelict, technology beyond current understanding, in the hands of a species known for their rapid innovation and dangerous creativity. The crystalline matrices we found, Mitchell continued, allowed us to manipulate space-time in ways your empire has theorized but never achieved. We've built 17 ships like the Horizon's Edge in the past 18 months, and we're building more every day. Your empire has a choice to make, Commander. You can accept humanity as equals and potential allies, or you can continue to see us as primitives to be controlled. But be warned, if you choose the latter, you will lose. Systems began coming back online aboard the Sovereign, not because Vrax's crew had managed repairs, but because the human ship was allowing them to reactivate. It was a mercy that felt more humiliating than the initial defeat. Your fleet will be fully operational in approximately 10 minutes, Mitchell said. I'm transmitting coordinates for a diplomatic meeting between human and Corinthian representatives. I genuinely hope you'll choose dialogue over conflict, Commander. Humanity has no desire for war, but make no mistake, we are prepared for it. The era of your empire's unquestioned dominance is over. A new age has begun and we will have our place in it. The Horizon's Edge vanished again, this time truly departing, leaving the Corinthian fleet floating in space with their pride shattered and their certainty destroyed. Vrax stared at the empty space where the impossible ship had been, his mind struggling to process everything that had just occurred. His communication officer finally managed to restore the quantum link to Corinthian High Command. Commander, we have connection. What should I report? Vrax thought about the question. What could he say? That a species they had dismissed as primitive had somehow leaped centuries ahead in technology? That a single human ship had defeated an entire Corinthian fleet without firing a single weapon? That everything the Empire believed about its place in the galaxy had just been proven wrong? Tell them, Vrax said slowly, that we need to schedule a diplomatic meeting. Tell them that the humans are no longer to be underestimated, and tell them that everything has changed. The truth revealed. The emergency session of the Corinthian High Council convened within hours of receiving Fleet Commander Vrax's report. The Grand Chamber, carved from a single massive crystal that had taken 2 centuries to shape, now held the most powerful beings in the Empire. 7 council members sat in elevated positions around the circular room, their forms illuminated by the soft glow of bioluminescent panels that lined the walls. Supreme Chancellor Mordax, eldest of the council and leader of the Corinthian Empire for 60 cycles, reviewed the transmitted data for the 3rd time. His ancient eyes, dulled by age but still sharp with intelligence, moved across the holographic display, showing the encounter between Vrax's fleet and the human vessel. Each time he watched it, the reality became more undeniable and more terrifying. This cannot be authentic, declared Councillor Threx, his young voice filled with the certainty of inexperience. No species advances this rapidly. It violates every established pattern of technological development. The humans must have received aid from another power, perhaps the Valorian Collective or the Asterian Commonwealth. Chief Science Advisor Lyra, a female Corinthian whose brilliance had earned her a position normally reserved for military commanders, manipulated the holographic controls. I've analyzed the energy signatures from the encounter. This technology doesn't match anything in the known galaxy. The Valorians use quantum displacement drives. The Asterians rely on dark matter manipulation. This human vessel appears to use something else entirely, something that interacts with the fundamental fabric of space-time in ways we've only theorized but never achieved, added Councillor Vex, the Empire's master of military strategy. Our best scientists have spent decades trying to develop stable crystalline energy matrices. The computational requirements alone are beyond our current capabilities, yet somehow these humans have not only created such matrices but weaponized them. Supreme Chancellor Mordax raised one clawed hand, silencing the debate. The how matters less than the what. The reality before us is clear. Humanity now possesses technology that makes them a peer power, possibly even a superior power. The question is not whether this is possible. The question is what we do about it. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. For 300 cycles, the Corinthian Empire had expanded unchecked. They had absorbed 47 different species into their domain, not through brutal conquest, but through undeniable technological superiority. Species joined the empire because resistance was futile. The Corinthians offered protection, resources, and access to advanced technology in exchange for loyalty and integration. But that entire system relied on the empire maintaining its technological edge. If humanity had somehow leaped ahead, if they had access to knowledge and capabilities beyond what the Corinthians possessed, then everything changed. We could strike first, suggested Councillor Threx. Deploy the full battle fleet. Destroy Earth's industrial capacity before they can produce more of these vessels. With what? Vex responded sharply. Did you not see the demonstration? A single human ship disabled 43 of our vessels in seconds. They didn't destroy us, Threx, they chose mercy. That should terrify you more than aggression would have. It means they're confident enough in their superiority that they don't fear retaliation. Lyra brought up a new display, showing a timeline of human development. I've been reviewing our observation data from the past 20 years. There's a gap. Approximately 19 years ago, human activity in their asteroid belt increased dramatically. Mining operations expanded to regions we weren't actively monitoring. Whatever they found it there. A derelict, Mordax said quietly. The human captain mentioned an ancient vessel, a civilization that makes both our species look primitive. Could such a thing exist? The science advisor's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. The galaxy is approximately 13 billion cycles old. The Corinthian Empire has existed for less than 2,000 cycles. There's ample time for civilizations to have risen and fallen long before either of our species achieved consciousness. If humanity discovered technology from such a civilization, and if they managed to reverse engineer even a fraction of it, then yes, this becomes possible. Mordax stood, his aged body still commanding respect despite his years. Send a message to the human diplomatic representatives. Accept their invitation for talks. We will meet them as equals. Equals? Threx's voice cracked with disbelief. Supreme Chancellor, we are the Corinthian Empire. We do not negotiate from positions of equality with species who barely understand quantum mechanics. We negotiate from positions of reality, Mordax corrected coldly. And the reality is that a species we dismissed has demonstrated technological capabilities we cannot match. We adapt or we perish. That has always been the Empire's strength. 3 days later, the diplomatic meeting took place aboard a neutral station at the edge of human-claimed space. The station itself was new, clearly of human construction, and its design incorporated the same crystalline technology evident in their warships. It hung in space like a geometric jewel, its surfaces reflecting light in patterns that seemed almost alive. Captain Sarah Mitchell stood in the diplomatic chamber, no longer in her military uniform but in formal civilian attire that somehow made her seem more formidable rather than less. She was tall for a human, with dark hair pulled back severely and eyes that missed nothing. Beside her stood 3 other humans. Dr. James Chen, whose name appeared repeatedly in the intelligence files as humanity's leading expert on xenoarchaeology. Admiral Marcus Thompson, commander of Earth's Defense Force, and Dr. Amara Okafor, a quantum physicist whose work had been deemed interesting but ultimately impractical by Corinthian analysts 5 years ago. Supreme Chancellor Mordax entered with a minimal entourage. Just Councillor Vex and Science Advisor Lyra. A deliberate choice meant to signal that this was a meeting between peers, not a superior addressing subordinates. Captain Mitchell, Mordax began, inclining his head in a gesture of respect. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Chancellor, Sarah responded, returning the gesture. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Please be seated. We have much to discuss. The chamber was designed to accommodate different species' physiologies. The Corinthians settled into seats that supported their chitinous frames while the humans took positions across a table made of the same. crystalline material that seemed to be humanity's new signature. Mordax decided to be direct. We underestimated your species. That was a mistake. We allowed our preconceptions and our pride to blind us to your potential. I hope this meeting represents the beginning of a more honest relationship. Sarah smiled slightly. Honesty. That's a good place to start. You've been watching us for years, Chancellor. Your observation posts on Mars's moon Phobos and in the Kuiper Belt have been cataloging our development, reporting back to your intelligence services, helping you decide when or if we should be contacted officially. Vex's eyes widened slightly. You knew about our observation posts? For about 18 months now, Admiral Thompson answered. Once we understood the principles behind our new sensor technology, detecting your facilities became trivial. We've chosen not to interfere with them because, frankly, we wanted you to keep underestimating us. It bought us time to build our fleet and establish our defensive infrastructure. Dr. Chen leaned forward, his expression serious. But that deception ends here. If we're going to have any kind of relationship, we need to establish trust. So let me tell you exactly what happened 19 years ago. The holographic display in the center of the table activated, showing an asteroid tumbling through space. This is asteroid 2041 Kepler. Nothing special, just another rock in the belt. A mining crew from the corporation Stellar Resources was conducting a standard survey when they detected unusual mass distribution. They investigated and found this. The image shifted, showing the interior of a massive cave within the asteroid. Nestled inside, like a bird in a nest, was a ship. But calling it a ship was like calling the ocean a puddle. The vessel was enormous, easily 10 kilometers in length, and its design was unlike anything in Corinthian archives. Organic curves merged with geometric precision, and the hull seemed to shift between solid matter and energy in the frozen image. We have no idea who built it, Dr. Chen continued. No idea how long it had been there. The asteroid itself is approximately 4 billion years old, but the ship could have arrived yesterday or 1 billion years ago. What we do know is that it was a treasure trove of technology so advanced that we're still trying to understand most of it. Dr. Okafor took over the explanation. Inside the vessel, we found what we call crystalline energy matrices. They're not computers in any traditional sense, and they're not purely energy storage either. They're something else. Something that exists at the intersection of matter, energy, and information. Once we figured out how to interface with them, they began teaching us. Teaching you? Lyra interrupted, her scientific curiosity overwhelming protocol. You mean they're intelligent? Not in the way you're thinking, Okafor replied. They're not artificial intelligence. They're more like recorded knowledge in a format so advanced that it can adapt to the observer's level of understanding. When our early researchers first interfaced with them, they received basic principles. As we learned and applied those principles, the matrices revealed more complex concepts. It's been an exponential learning curve. Sarah gestured to the crystalline table before them. Every ship we've built, every station, every piece of new technology we've deployed, it all stems from understanding these matrices. The Horizon's Edge and her sister ships represent our first generation of matrix-integrated vessels. They're powerful, yes, but they're also just the beginning. We're learning more every day. Mordax processed this information carefully. And what do you want from us, Captain? You've demonstrated your strength. You could demand territory, resources, submission. Yet you invite us to talk. Why? Because we're not interested in building an empire, Chancellor, Sarah said firmly. We've studied your empire. We understand how it works, how you integrate species through technological superiority and economic interdependence. It's effective, even relatively benevolent compared to conquest through pure military force. But it's still a hierarchy, still a system where some species matter more than others. She stood, walking to the window that showed the stars beyond. Humanity wants something different. We want partnership. Real partnership between equals who respect each other's sovereignty and capabilities. Yes, we have advanced technology now. But we're not naive. We know there are things we don't understand. Perspectives we lack. Your empire has 300 cycles of experience managing interstellar civilization. That's knowledge we need. Admiral Thompson nodded. We're proposing an alliance. Not absorption into your empire, but a genuine mutual defense and cooperation treaty. We share some of our new technology, particularly defensive applications. You share your experience, your diplomatic networks, your understanding of galactic politics. Together we're stronger than either of us alone. Vex studied the humans carefully. And if we refuse? If we insist on maintaining the old order where the Corinthian Empire stands supreme, then you'll be left behind, Sarah said bluntly. We're not going to attack you, Chancellor. We're not interested in conquest, but we're also not going to submit to being subordinate partners in your empire. We'll expand, we'll explore, and we'll offer other species the same genuine partnership we're offering you. Eventually, you'll find yourselves isolated, clinging to old structures while the galaxy moves on without you. The silence that followed was profound. Mordax looked at his advisors, reading the acceptance in their eyes. The age of Corinthian dominance had indeed ended, not with war or conquest, but with the simple reality of technological evolution. There will be resistance in the Council, Mordax said finally. Many will see this as surrender, as abandonment of our rightful position. Then frame it differently, Dr. Chen suggested. Frame it as the Corinthian Empire having the wisdom to recognize strength when it emerges, the flexibility to adapt to changing circumstances, and the foresight to build bridges rather than walls. That's not weakness, Chancellor. That's the kind of wisdom that helps civilization survive for millennia instead of centuries. Mordax allowed himself a sound that might have been a laugh. You're very persuasive, Doctor, very well. I will present your proposal to the full council. I believe they will accept, though it may take time for pride to yield to practicality. We understand, Sarah said, returning to her seat. We're patient. We've been patient for 19 years, learning and building while you watched us. We can be patient a little longer. The meeting continued for several hours, working through the technical details of a potential alliance. Trade agreements, technology sharing protocols, mutual defense commitments, and diplomatic frameworks. Throughout it all, Mordax found himself genuinely impressed by the humans. They negotiated firmly but fairly, understanding when to compromise and when to hold their ground. As the session concluded and the parties prepared to depart, Vex approached Sarah privately. Captain, a question if I may. Those 17 ships you mentioned to Fleet Commander Vrax, was that number accurate? Sarah's expression remained neutral. Why would I lie about our capabilities, Counselor? That would defeat the purpose of the demonstration. Indeed, Vex replied thoughtfully, though I notice you didn't mention how many more might be under construction. No, Sarah agreed with a slight smile. I didn't. Let's just say that humanity learned a valuable lesson from being underestimated. We're making sure that never happens again. As the Corinthian delegation departed, returning to their own vessels, Mordax looked back at the human station one final time. They're going to change everything, he said quietly to Lyra. Yes, the science advisor agreed. The question is whether we're wise enough to change with them. Aboard the station, Sarah watched the Corinthian ships disappear into the distance. Admiral Thompson joined her at the viewport. Do you think they'll accept the alliance? They will, Sarah said confidently. They're pragmatists at heart. They understand that the galaxy has shifted beneath their feet. The real question is whether they can adapt emotionally as well as intellectually. Dr. Chen appeared with a data pad. The council wants an update. Should I tell them the meeting was successful? Sarah turned away from the viewport, her expression determined. Tell them that humanity just took its first real step onto the galactic stage. Tell them that we're no longer the newcomers being studied and assessed. We're players in this game now, and we're going to change the rules. In the depths of the asteroid belt, in a facility built around the ancient derelict that had started everything, other humans continued their work. The crystalline matrices pulsed with light, sharing secrets that had waited billions of years for the right species to discover them. Humanity had found its place among the stars not through conquest or submission, but through discovery, adaptation, and the courage to demand equality. The Corinthian Empire had frozen in fear when they realized humans shouldn't have ships like the horizon's edge. But fear was giving way to something more complex, a mixture of respect, caution, and the beginning of genuine partnership. The galaxy was changing, and for the first time in 300 cycles, the Corinthian Empire was not the force driving that change. They were learning to follow, and perhaps in time, they would learn that following was not the same as surrendering. It was simply recognizing that the future belonged to those bold enough to seize it and wise enough to share it. The age of empire was ending. The age of alliance was beginning, and humanity, the species that had been dismissed as primitive just years before, stood at the center of that transformation, holding technology from the deep past and using it to build a better future. The stars had never seemed so full of possibility.